Hi, John.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
So you founded your nonprofit Operation Hope in the aftermath of the Rodney King riots, and now we're more than 30 years later, and we're still at a point of racial tension in this country. So I want to start off by talking about, of course, no surprise, the election. How are you feeling about the outcome, and what do you think the impact is going to be on DEI initiatives and policies?
First of all, honored to be here, and thanks for being a leader in this space. I really do believe that the private sector is going to be the hero and the shero in the next 20 or 30 years. 88% of all jobs in this country come from the private sector, little known fact. And as I tell folks I grew up with, even if you want to distribute money like a socialist, you have to first collect it like a capitalist. I'm not overly concerned about the moment. I just think it's a moment. This is about insecurity. It's about economic insecurity. This election was about the green. I've known that for a long time. I think President Bill Clinton sort of was able to get that right in the center. He had, lower deficits and higher GDP and an inclusive agenda. And I don't think a lot of people have gotten it right since then. But this was about insecurity and people who want a narrative that for a time that has long passed. I'm about the future. And I think that's why in your car, the front windshield is bigger than the rearview mirror. Look, I just think there's just not enough white men.
Why do you say that? That is not a popular belief, especially
probably not what you
now.
thought would come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Look, I like math because it doesn't have an opinion.
Okay.
It's a Melody Hobson quote. I just love it. The math is that I want every white male to be successful if they can be. I want everybody to be successful, but we need every successful college-educated white male to be on the field of economics. But mathematically, there's not enough college-educated, successful white men to drive GDP for 30 years. So
do you think education is the problem here, or what went wrong, or?
I mean, leadership's always the problem, and courage is always the problem. But yes, education is the ultimate poverty eradication tool. I think financial literacy is a civil rights issue of this generation. I think that AI literacy is right behind it and next to it, which is why I'm co-chairing the Financial Literacy for All initiative with the CEO of Walmart, Doug McMillon, and co-chairing the AI Ethics Council with the Steve Jobs of this generation, which is Sam Altman. But going back to, let's hit your question directly, though. I want to answer the question. White population in 1950 was 90%. Not 1850, 1950. Today, 40% of this country is black and brown. Within 10 to 15 years, it'll be a majority of minorities. White, wealthy baby boomers age 65 years of age will outnumber children by 2034. I'll repeat that. Those over 65 will outnumber children by the age 2034. Everybody is trying to retire and go play golf at the same time. You guys are a hard audience. I'm giving you good stuff. They're just walking off the stage at the same time.
Yeah.
And my rich friends need my poor friends to do better if only to stay rich. If you never had a superpower that wasn't the economic power at the same time. But this economy is 70% consumer spending. 70. And that 70 is going to look different. And that group has to be financially literate. They've got to have good jobs. They have to have a ladder of opportunity. They've got to be stockholders, shareholders. We've been here before, by the way. It was women. It was your mother.
Right.
In 1960s, Johnson and Kennedy proposed affirmative action for blacks. Nixon, the Republican president, codified it. But the courts said, basically, put all these blockages in place, sounds familiar, and blacks did not get those benefits. Who got the benefits? Women, specifically, or first of all, white women. In 1972, a woman could not get a credit card. Not 1872. A woman could not get a bank loan without her husband co-signing it. This is shocking. This is a real debate. Like, women should not have these opportunities and should have a job. We, of course, made the right decision as a country. Today, forget the morals now, forget the ethics about this. Put that aside. Today, women are $6 to $7 trillion of the GDP of this country, where they are a third of the GDP of the largest economy on the planet, which means if we had gotten that wrong, if we had let our small-mindedness overtake us, we'd be a third-rate nation today. I think we're at this same inflection point. And so when I said not enough white men, I mean mathematically. So look, diversity all the reports have shown the diverse businesses are more profitable, without question. Diverse regions, including New York City, have more viability and more profitable. This is not even, the data is so stark and overwhelming, it's not even close. I got a call, by the way, backstage from a board member from one of the biggest banks in the South in Georgia, technically they're in Georgia, if you can figure out who they are, saying we need minority board members. This was 20 minutes ago. Yeah. Can you help us? Because our customer base is we want to reflect our customer base, and it's growing. We're having all kind of economic prosperity, but we want to reflect that on our board. Can you help me find somebody? Sure, happy to. This is the people they're afraid to speak out.
Well, how do you explain to business leaders then? I think a lot of business leaders mistake, DEI for just hiring to fill a quota. How do you explain to them the purpose and the value behind it in a way that benefits them and their bottom line?
So as I wrote in a piece in Time, and you guys have reflected in your pages in Fortune when I've spoken to you, I think that we're looking at this in the wrong way. I think DEI became weaponized, it became political, it became emotional. Yep. It was designed, I think, emotionally, and I think whenever you make an emotional decision, it's the wrong one. I like the math, and inclusive economics, which is my approach, is just neutral. It's just math. It's emerging markets. So do you want, how does hockey league, how do you find professional hockey players in Canada? They farm club them from elementary school. How do we find professional football players and baseball players and basketball players here? We farm club them in middle school. Where are the future capitalists? How are we farm clubbing business leaders, entrepreneurs, real estate people, professionals? We don't. We just leave it to chance, unless you go to a private school, unless you come from a wealthy family, in which case you're talking about that at the dinner table, or you got an internship in your dad's business. So we need to create a farm club system, K through college. I've gotten a bank account for every kindergarten kid at Atlanta Public Schools. It's a Hope Child Savings account. And studies have shown that if a kid has a bank account in elementary school, in kindergarten, they're 50% more likely to go to college. Hold on. If that same kid has money in that account, $50, they're 75% more likely to graduate from college, because you're connecting education with aspiration. Right. So if you connect account at kindergarten, which everybody can, I think everybody would love that idea, financial literacy, get your professionals to go and volunteer in schools, whether they're white, poor, rural, or they're mixed race, middle class, or whether they're black and brown, urban, it doesn't matter. And now you put internships from those schools, apprenticeships from those schools, hiring from those schools. You're going to reflect America. You're going to find best talents. You're going to find the Steve Jobs and the Sam Altmans and the Oprah Winfreys, or wherever your hero Shiro is. You're going to find them all over America, because there's genius everywhere. Yeah.
Now, I want to come to the audience in a second for questions, but really fast before I do that, you mentioned the AI Ethics Council that you founded with OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. You had your inaugural meeting in July. What was the biggest issue that you identified that you think needs to be addressed?
First of all, it terrified me. Okay. The first meeting I had with Sam. So? Well, I mean, everything is going to change. I mean, we have not had this since 1850. 1850 to 1910, you went from the horse and buggy to the automobile. Right? And the same debate was happening in that 60-year period. Everything was horses. Agriculture, transportation, class structures, wealth. It was all about horses. By 1910, the most valuable thing you could do with a horse was create glue. And no offense to the horse or horse lovers, but that was the fact in 1910. In 1900 to 1910, there were 100 automobile manufacturers. And then you had Henry Ford, and his great-great-grandson's on my board now. You had Henry Ford, who created a middle class by paying the workers enough to buy the automobiles they were making. Everything changed. We're at this inflection point again, but it's going to be 6 years, not 60. And you got to reimagine everything, because it's happening. I came from the airport last night. All the fast food restaurants, the convenience stores, it's all a pad. It's already happening. You're already punching in your order. You don't notice it, but it's sort of, you go to CVS or go to your grocery store. It's a self-checkout line with one person overseeing it. And all the checkout counters are gone. If you have a high school education, no aspiration and no education, you've got a real problem in America in the next 10 or 15 years. So we have got to, I think, I can't, this topic just overwhelms me. I'm terrified by it and excited about it.
Yeah,
It's
there's
gonna,
potential.
we're gonna possibly cure cancer in 10 years.
Right.
So, but half of all jobs for Black America, as an example, and underserved America, poor whites too, poof, gone.
Right.
If all you have is a high school education, you're gone. But there's gonna be new jobs created. By the way, accountants, problem for them. Lawyers, problem, anything that can be automated. So this is changing everything all at once.
Yep.
And you combine, but we can equip our children with financial literacy and AI literacy. And I'm going to be doing a pilot in Atlanta, which I announced next month at my Hope Global Forum, with AI Ethics Council, with Sam Altman co-chairing it. We're going to create a farm club system in Atlanta from college, from kindergarten, all the way through college, to Farm Club, the next generation of AI learners, innovators, app creators, inventors.
That's incredible.
Yeah, the
That's
future.
Great. That is the future. And I want to save time for one audience question I think we have time for. Does anyone have one they want to ask? Okay.
No one's courageous?
No one's courageous. And that's okay, John, because I have many more I can ask you.
Yep.
So my last one for you is...
By the way, that didn't surprise me. This issue of diversity and all this
It's
stuff.
hard to talk about, and I think that,
People,
which leads to my
yeah,
next question, which is that I think a lot of companies feel that they've seen the legal challenges that other companies have faced when they've implemented DEI or inclusive economics. Should companies be fearful of legal challenges, and what do you tell business leaders that are scared?
You should be fearful of failure. You should be fearful that you don't have enough customers. You should be fearful that you don't have enough employees. You should be fearful that you don't meet your stock market and your stock your price targets and your income, which you've told Wall Street quarter to quarter that you're going to hit. You can't. I'll say it again. My rich friends need my poor friends to do better, if only to stay rich. This is not even a debate. And I had a private debate with Bill Ackman about this, and I can't say what happened in the conversation. I'll just say that I had receipts and he didn't. And when I asked him what was behind it, he couldn't answer it. But when I asked him, do you have a business plan for America other than the one that I presented, he couldn't answer that too. In fact, he said he sort of agreed with me, but he wouldn't say that publicly. I say to anybody, if you don't like, forget DE&I, put that aside. The term's dead. If you have a business plan that's different from diversity and different from demographics, please present it. I mean, I'm not, to me, this is not complicated. You can't fight demographic changes. Demographics are destiny. And we're going, and if you look at the most successful markets in America, what are the two biggest economies? California and New York. What are the two most diverse places in America? California and New York. What's the biggest economy in the traditional South? Atlanta. What's the most diverse place in the traditional South? Atlanta. Atlanta's the 10th largest economy in the United States of America. Busiest airport in the world. $450 billion a year in GDP. But we fought over who got the contract, not who went to a lunch counter or who got into a room or all this other silly stuff that people have been fighting over for 100 years. And we're still arguing over silly things about race and position. Again, unless we want to be speaking Mandarin in 20 years. No disrespect. I love the world. I love China. I've been there many times. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying unless you want to be speaking Mandarin or Russian in 20 years, we got to stop arguing with each other. Everybody wants to be an American, but Americans.
Yeah, and that's
We've got to figure out whether we're better together. Can I get an amen?
And that is the perfect way to end it. So thank you so much, John. I appreciate you being here with me today.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.